Guys, happy Friday. The question of the day is, do buyers now have to pay the realtor's commission? Stick with me and I'll answer.
You better get fired up.
Yeah, baby, we got Friday. I appreciate you joining me every single Friday with You've Got Questions, I've Got Answers, where we answer your questions. Just had a friend of mine who is out for the first time looking at homes, first-time home buyer, and asked, do I have to pay a commission now? I've heard all of these stories, these headlines about buyers now having to pay commission, sellers no longer have to pay the buy-side commission. That's going to be a lot of money. How does that work? Here are the rules. With the changes that came about on August 17th, now sellers can choose to pay their listing agent anything they want. They can choose to pay out a commission to cover the buy-side realtor. And there's reasons you'd want to do it and not do it. But it's their choice. And it's always been their choice. What wasn't their choice is to be on the MLS, which is the biggest powerful marketing tool that you have, without paying at least $1. Now they can do it without paying even $1, which really isn't a big change, right? Before you had to pay $1, now you can pay $0. It's a $1 change on a 6-7 figure deal. It's really not a big deal. But it brought to light something that a lot of sellers didn't know, which is I don't have to pay it, right? Am I seeing a lot of sellers pay it? I'm seeing almost every seller pay it. I have heard of these myths of sellers not paying it, but it hurts their showing so much. It hurts the offers they get. It shrinks that buyer pool down so much. I haven't actually seen anybody do this in practice. And like I said, you could have paid out $1 a month ago and nobody did it. Why? Because you're not going to attract a lot of buyers. So does a buyer have to pay their agent a commission? Well, you're going to be in a buyer-broker agreement. And in that buyer-broker agreement, there's going to be some sort of compensation stated that you will owe your agent. However, in 99% of those contracts, right at the end of that contract, there's verbiage that says you owe your buyer's agent the above amount, right, minus anything that the seller's paying. So if you get into a buyer rep for 3% with your agent, which is pretty typical, and you come up to a listing and they're paying out 3%, then that 3% is covered. The seller's going to pay for it. You don't have to worry about it. You're good to go. There'll be verbiage in the offer that states, hey, you're going to pay me this, and there's a direct compensation agreement where the seller is paying the buyer's brokerage and all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, it's not coming out of your pocket. It's coming out of the seller's pocket, right? Which saves you cash out of pocket. That's the big problem, is cash out of pocket. So you get sellers who say, I'm not paying it, you pay it. Well, you're going to cut a lot of buyers out, not just because they're disgruntled, but because they have to save up, like FHA. That's a pretty common first-time home buyer loan, and you've got to have 3.5% down. Even if you're a first-time home buyer on conventional, it's 3% down. So you're looking at roughly 3.5% down. And then you're looking at closing costs, which can be 3.5 to 4%. So let's just say that's roughly 7% on a 350. Why would I pick 350 on a $400,000 home? I got to get easier math here. That's $28,000. That is a good chunk of change for a lot of people. To come up with another 3%, another $12,000, you just extended the amount of time that somebody needs to buy a home by 6, 12, 18 months. They don't want to do it. That's why almost every single seller I see is offering a compensation towards a buyer's agent, right? They want that buyer pool to get bigger. They want more showings. They want more offers. They want the multiple offers, and then they want that to beat up on each other. And in the end, the goal is to make more money than whatever money you're paying out in commission. And if you look at all the data, you unquestionably are, if you're paying, I'll just say an average commission payout, right? So if you are that buyer and you've got that, let's just say 3% agreement with your buyer's agent, and you go into a home and that home is not offering compensation, now you owe the difference, which is 3%. Can you still put an offer in and write in, seller will pay my agent 3%? Yes. Can they decline it? Yes. Can they negotiate it? Yes. Can you come up 3% on price? So instead of 400 grand, maybe you come up to 412 and you say, hey, but you're going to pay the 3%. So now it's financed. Maybe that costs me, I don't know, 70, 75 bucks a month, but it's financed, which makes it nice for me. And it's not cash out of my pocket. And the seller, it's, you know, the same net to them. What do they care? Right? No big deal. But some sellers have it up here like they're just disgruntled. They don't want to do it. Those sellers are going to be tough to deal with no matter what. They're going to be tough to deal with on inspection. If the appraisal's short, with any issue at all, those sellers are usually pretty challenging to work with anyway, in my opinion. So when I start seeing red flags up front, I don't say let's not move forward. I just say, hey, be aware if any other challenge pops up, we're going to get a very similar response. It's going to be tough to get to closing. Be mentally and emotionally prepared for that. But you pay the difference. I have not seen a scenario yet where I have submitted an offer and that commission has not been taken and my buyer has had to pay anything. Haven't seen it. Will it happen? Absolutely. But I haven't seen it yet. So what I'm coaching my buyers is we're going to look at homes. We don't care what they're offering, just like we don't care what they're offering on price, right? At $500,000, if you want to come in at 480, are you just not going to go look at the home and you're not going to put the offer in because they're asking 5? No, you're going to go look at the home. You're going to put the offer in at 480. And if they accept it, great. If they negotiate it, we'll talk about it. If they decline it, we'll decide if we truly want to come up or if we want to walk and go look at another home. But we're going to put an offer in. That's negotiation. That's American real estate, right? Okay, get rid of this cough. I'm sorry. So we're going to do the same thing with commission. If you're in a buyer broker agreement with your agent and you're at 3%, have your agent add that to the contract. The worst thing they're going to say is no. The second worst thing they're going to say is let's compromise, and they'll meet you somewhere in the middle, right? But the overwhelming majority of them, at least in it's only been, 14 to 20 days, it's been almost 3 weeks, is everyone is accepting it. They still want to sell houses, right? And if you look at the difference, let's go in a $500,000 home, right? And you're offering to pay out 2%. But the agent says, hey, we need 3% to cover my buyer's commission to me. That's $5,000. I don't know a buyer who loves a home and can afford $505 who wouldn't come up to $505. And there aren't a lot of sellers who wouldn't come down $5,000 in net, right? $5,000 or less, that deal's always getting put together. Someone's bending because one person wants to sell, one person wants to buy. Someone's going to meet in the middle. It always happens. If you're $20,000 difference, that might be a little bit different. But I'll tell you too, when you're pricing your home as a seller, you really got to look at the fact that, like I said, everyone I'm seeing is still paying typical commissions. So if you decide, hey, I'm going to save that buyer side commission, not only is your buyer pool smaller, right? But you can't comp your home out. All those homes that sold, let's just say at $500,000, they sold with a commission involved. So maybe they paid the $15,000 of their agent, $15,000 of the other agent. So that's $30,000. So they netted $470. So if you think you're going to get $500 and you're not going to pay your agent and, or you're not going to pay a buyer's agent, you're not only going to lose, let's say the $15,000 that you would have had to pay the buyer's agent, you're going to lose more because your buyer pool is so small because the overwhelming majority of buyers work with buyer agents. Now I'm a salesman, so it sounds like I'm pushing people to work with realtors. Well, I am. I really think it's a phenomenal idea because if you've ever gone to court, I'm a smart guy. I know contracts. I know legalities for real estate. I don't know legalities about anything else. So if I got to go to court, I'm going to get my butt kicked to save a couple grand on an attorney. That doesn't make any sense, right? I'm saving $5,000 to lose 15. That doesn't make any sense. Same with a doctor. Can I do open heart surgery? Sure. What do you think my odds are of living? Pretty slim, right? Old Joe doesn't know how to sew up hearts very well. I'm going to pay that guy. Is he going to charge me through the nose? Yep. He's going to charge me 5-6 figures worth of money for an operation that might take him 2 hours. And I can talk about it all day long, but I don't have the expertise to do that. So I think it's really important that you use a professional, right? You've got to use someone to protect you. And you'll hear stories out there of, hey, I sold my home. Hey, I bought a home, didn't use a realtor. It was great. It happens. Just like you can go to court and you can win. But if you lose and you get absolutely hammered, there's no going back. I can't tell you how many people sellers will go online and they'll see that their Zestimate is $500,000. So they sell it at $500,000. They're like, yeah, see, it's easy. Meanwhile, they could have sold it for $553 if they'd used a realtor, you know, and they would have been out, let's say 6% would be $35,000, but they would have netted $20,000, $25,000 more. And they would have had better terms and they would have had greater odds of it closing and all these different things, right? So I don't see that trend happening. I don't really see hardly anybody not working with a realtor. But from a buyer standpoint, what I'm telling my buyers is you're very unlikely to pay a commission. And if you don't want to pay a commission, you will not pay a commission. We will negotiate to get the compensation covered by the seller. And if they won't cover it, we'll just keep looking at other homes, right? So now I've heard other agents say, listing agents, it's discriminatory not to show a home, making it illegal to not show a home if the compensation isn't what you want. Well, that's not true at all. It's against the law if I choose to do that, right? If I'm in a contract for 3 and you're paying out 0, I can't just say we're not going to go look at that house that's paying out 0. I can't do that as a realtor. But the buyer can inform me, I do not want to look at any homes that are not going to cover your compensation. Okay, cool. Now, again, I don't care what the seller's offering. I don't care if they're offering 2%, 3%, 8%, 0%. It doesn't matter to me. I'm going to write it in because I know people negotiate. I know people bend. So we're going to write it up. I'm not even asking what the payout is. We're putting it in there. And 9 times out of 10, 9.5 times out of 10, they're accepting it, right? And if they're countering it, they're not countering because of the commission. They're countering because of the total net, usually because of price. And we bump the price a little bit. So if you're a seller and if you're tight on money and you can do the 3.5% down and you can do closing costs, but you're thinking, holy smokes, I can't do another 3% for a realtor. You can have that discussion with an intelligent realtor and they can ensure that no more cash is coming out of your pocket. There's ways to negotiate that with the seller, with the listing agent, with you to make sure that your pocketbook, your cash in hand is protected. Guys, if you've got any questions for future shows, leave them in the comments, email them to me, DM them to me, whatever it is you'd like, and we'll absolutely get them on. Again, we're here every single Friday at 11 o'clock. You've got questions. I've got answers. Guys, have a great weekend.